of things. So I think that's one of the really exciting benefits I see coming out of this project, as well as many others. And here today to really talk about this and explain it in a little further depth is Jim Dion of the National Geographic Society. Jim, so pleased you're here today. Welcome.
Thank you. Great, good afternoon. Thank you so much for this opportunity for us to be able to present our program of sustainable tourism that we call geotourism here at National Geographic. We'll start off with some background about the program and the project, and then go through some case studies of places where we worked around the world and how the program works, and then be very happy to hear some responses from you all of what you think about this opportunity and how it might be able to apply to the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. I'm with National Geographic. We're a global nonprofit membership organization driven by a passionate belief in the power of science, exploration, and storytelling to change the world. And I'm part of that storytelling contingent. We really believe that we can, by using knowledge from local people, we can tell stories that will inspire people to want to conserve and preserve their sense of place, their environment, and where they are and who they are. And I think that's important in geography. Geography is about people as well as it is about place, and nothing segues more into tourism than people telling stories about themselves to inspire people from Paris, France to Paris, Kentucky, to be able to cross a street or cross an ocean to see something that they learned about through a storytelling medium, whether it be a magazine or a video or a website, and ways in which we all consume knowledge about people and places. Our global footprint allows people to illuminate, inspire, and educate. I really think it's important that the National Park Service and National Geographic has such a shared mission, which to go out and be able to work with some of the most important places in the world, some of our more incredible communities that we have, in order to be able to gather and disseminate geographic knowledge about places, to inspire people to understand what's so special about their sense of place, educate them how they can make a difference, and then illuminate them so they can maximize their visitor experience and maximize their place-based authenticity. I'm with the MAPS division. We provide interactive media platforms that promote well-managed tourism and wise destination stewardship. And why travel and tourism? Why is this important for us? And in some ways, you know, National Geographic's known through its travel programs and expeditions to take people to some of the world's most important and interesting places. But we started looking back in about 2001, 2002 of how we can use tourism as a way in which to preserve and conserve sense of place. And so we developed this program in order to create interactive websites that allow people to be able to share their stories with us, and then also looking at ways we can work with those communities that come together in order to create these websites, so we can create local destination management organizations that we call geotourism stewardship councils that can help guide wise destination stewardship in the places where we do our programs. Tourism is important. Tourism is important on a global scale. Some could argue that it's the world's second largest industry next to agriculture in the world. And the incredible growth that we've had over the last years. 25 million international tourists back in 1950, over 1 billion people traveled internationally in 2013, statistics according to the UN World Tourism Organization. What I find interesting, 1 in 11 jobs globally are directly or indirectly tied to tourism. And that's that simple premise that if someone comes into a town, someone is on vacation somewhere, and we've all done this, you know, you stay at the hotel and you do your tourism activity, but you go to the CVS and you bought all those things you forgot at home, and you eat at the local restaurants, and you get your tires changed, and you go into the local stores, and you spread that money around in that community. And what's great about tourism, that's new money that comes infused into the community. So, you know, a lot of smaller countries, a lot of developing countries globally have been looking at tourism strategies as a way in which to create an opportunity to bring in foreign income at a non-loan type situation. Well, I think if we look at our smaller communities, by having more and more people from more and more places go into these places, spend some time, spend some money in them, we can help create these community economic development models through well-managed tourism. The impact on the U.S. economy, and this is statistics according to the International Trade Administration of the U.S. Department of Commerce that our friend Ron Erdman shared with us, you know, these impact of tourism in the United States is significant and is growing. Their goals for the National Travel and Tourism Strategy is to attract and welcome over 100 million international visitors who they estimate will spend $250 billion annually by the end of 2021. And what they're looking for to do is to be able to market America's lesser known, lesser appreciated destinations and places. A lot of times people travel to what's marketed to them. And if what you see about America is Orlando and New York City and California and Disney World, that's probably where you're going to go. But how do you find the Great Falls, Montanas of the world? How do you find those places in South Dakota? How do you have a North Dakota experience? Where do you find that? It's a lot harder. A lot of those places don't have the funding to be able to get into international advertising. They're not going to be featured and, they don't sell magazines internationally. They don't attract that type of heft because they don't have the advertising budgets to do so. So within our program, we're looking at ways in which we can capitalize, if you will, on the National Geographic brand to be able to give an opportunity for these people, these international travelers that are looking for places to go, the knowledge for them to be able to visit and give them the tools that when they plan their travel, that their travel will maximize their opportunity, places that perhaps they hadn't thought about or heard about before. So we want to work to encourage Americans to travel within the United States and its territories to see that all that our country has to offer, which is a great opportunity for the Lewis and Clark National Heritage Trail, I believe. Tourism's growing. These are other statistics about it. If we look down at some of the fastest growing international tourism, and this is the outmarket market. China obviously is huge. Germany, Russian Federation, United Kingdom, France, Canada, Italy, Australia, Brazil. And we see these growth models over time as more and more people have more and more knowledge about more and more places through the internet. More and more geographic knowledge has been shared with more people, and therefore we see market growth in areas that have not been traditional as before. So our program works to work with communities in order to leverage tourism so that it benefits our community, our economies, and our environments. And our methodology to do that is what we call geotourism. Geotourism was coined by Jonathan Turtellow, former senior editor at Traveler magazine back in 2001. He had a geotourism column that kind of defined sustainable tourism for the society as tourism that sustains or enhances the geographical character of a place, its environment, culture, aesthetics, heritage, and the well-being of its residents, so we can leverage the power of National Geographic and local partners to gather and disseminate rich information about the unique and authentic aspects of a destination. And really stressing here unique and authentic. What we're looking for are all those things that are provided locally by those small, micro, medium enterprises that provide the tourism experiences when people are traveling to places. Geotourists, according to the National Tourism Association, that's incorporated geotourism behavior into their annual surveys, represents a market of about 55 million traveling Americans. What I think is really interesting, these are people that take 4 or more leisure trips a year on average. They're seeking out authentic experiences. These people that self-identify as geotourists are willing to spend more money. They care about protection and preservation of the places they visit. Really, the lesson here is it's not about more people coming to places, it's visitor behavior, people spending more time and spending more money, and also people coming to your destination that respect and care about your destination and what you have to offer to places. Geo-travelers go local. They patronize locally owned businesses and eat at restaurants serving regional cuisine. They buy from local craftspeople and seek out traditional music and dance. And as a result, the money they spend helps local people earn a living and preserve their destination's authenticity. Important here is that I think it's the only industry we invite people to come into our living rooms for a few days and spend some time with us. We want people that come into our living rooms that are going to respect who we are and what we have to offer. By our disseminating our place-based knowledge and breaking open the opportunity for people to know more about these places, then it's kind of a win-win for everybody. We have good tourists in good places, and we have local businesses that are benefiting from how they behave when they're visiting in your place. So we asked a simple question when we go out to communities and we begin to gather this story of what is the tourism value proposition for your place is simply what's so special about your place. If you visit the U.S. Gulf Coast States geotourism.com, we have over 3,500 points of interest that were offered to us by over 1,500 people in order to help the U.S. Gulf Coast states rebrand themselves after Katrina and the oil spill. And it was a way for them to be able to reinvent their tourism story. A lot of times a cautionary lesson is we don't always have the power of the brand, of interpreting a brand in the hands of the destination. A lot of times other people tell our story. So it's important for us that the Lewis and Clark Heritage Trail have the opportunity as well to tell your unique story, because no one can tell your story like you have the ability to do so. And your place-based authenticity is what's special. It's what sets you apart. It's all those unique things that you can do and experience along your destination and within your region. We've been doing these programs since 2004. In 2004 to 2008, we did them as handheld map guides. We now make interactive websites. We did our first interactive website for Greater Yellowstone in 2006. And since then, we've been working with all of these destinations. Each one has an active geotourism stewardship council that are managing and maintaining their website and building destination strategies to help to preserve and conserve their sense of place. That long-term aspect of this is very, very important for us. The website, in a way, is a catalyst in which to convene local tourism stakeholders so that they can get together, understand what's so special about their place. And a lot of times, doing these projects, we discover surprises. People learn about their destination of, what would be interesting and attractive for a lot of people. People from places might not know about unless we can kind of share that story internally with all of us. So I encourage you to visit our websites and see what these communities are telling you about their special sense of place. Every place is different. Every time we do one of these projects, we have to work with local people in order to be able to tell that story. That's why this geotourism Stewardship Council concept is so important, to have a group of people that can work with us in a very, very close and interactive way to decide on everything from the color palette to what our imagery is to our taglines, and to be able to sum up in an accurate way about who we are and what we're about. And here we are, the crown of the continent, the great international Peace Park region of Glacier, Waterton Parks in Montana, British Columbia, and Alberta, pristine mountain landscapes and intact ecosystems seen nowhere else in the world. That's a very different story than Eastern Sri Lanka that has a very different story to tell. We look at the color palette here. We see this burnt saffron color on the top. That's if you're walking around in Eastern Sri Lanka and you see the education of the teaching monks wear these saffron robes, and you can walk up to them and ask them what the meaning of life is and have that interaction. That's what they're there for. Below that, we see a picture of a Hindu temple. Well, Buddhism's a philosophy and Hinduism's a religion, and many people in Sri Lanka are Buddhist and Hindus at the same time, even though sometimes there's some conflict within those religion and the philosophy, and that's what they call the yin and yang. So a lot of people travel around the world to become enlightened and do philosophical journeys to a place like Eastern Sri Lanka. A little bit different story than the crown of the continent. You have a different story to tell as well. Every place is unique, and that's how we compete in tourism, is on our place-based differentiation. And knowing how different we are and how we're able to tell that unique story will help you to stand out when people are looking to make decisions to travel to destinations. Another project that we've been kind of on the road doing now for about a year is the Mississippi River, exploring our heart, our soul, and nature. Mark Weekley's been working with us on the Geotourism Stewardship Council for the Mississippi River Geotourism Program. We're doing the entire Mississippi River corridor, one county wide along the corridor from Lake Itasca in Minnesota all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, somewhat analogous to your 3,700 miles of trail, which we've been able to engage people in communities in telling this unique story. So we believe that it all starts with communities, that great places to live are great places to visit, and that's what people are looking for. One of our projects here at the East Tennessee River Valley, you see Tennessee River Valley geotourism.org, the two bookends are Knoxville, Tennessee and Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I don't know too much of what you know about Chattanooga, but back in 1967, Walter Cronkite led off the nightly news saying Chattanooga, Tennessee is America's most dirty and dangerous city with the lowest standard of living. And that woke them up in Chattanooga. And they took their urban renewal money, if there's anybody here in the audience my age that remembers urban renewal, a lot of communities with their urban renewal dollars basically knocked down their downtowns and put up 1970s styles architecture. Chattanooga did something different. They preserved their sense of place. They created the first warehouse loft artist district in the United States, even before they kind of thought of that in New York City. They moved the university closer to town. They moved the steel mill further out to town. They enacted a whole bunch of initiatives in which to make their town a better place to live. And at the same time, it grew as a tourism destination. So it's a community that came together and transformed their sense of place by using well-managed tourism as a way to create a better reality for people to live. May 2013, cover of Outside Magazine, Chattanooga, Tennessee is America's best place to live. Completely transform their sense of place. We believe that the product is the place, and we have to protect our place-based authenticity. But to do that, we have to understand what our product is. This is Sitka, Alaska. Pretty interesting place. It sits on the Northwest Passage, but off the Northwest Passage. It was a favorite for the cruise ships to go out there. It has beautiful killer whales that you can see, bald eagles, forests, mountains, that kind of quintessential Alaska situation. After the mortgage crisis crash in 2008 and the rise of energy, the cruise ships stopped going out to Sitka because they could find trees and mountains and bald eagles and killer whales and other places along the inland passage without taking the expense to go as far out to Sitka, and their tourism economy began to collapse. So Camille Ferguson, who was at that time the head of the Convention and Visitors Bureau and Visit Sitka, sent out questionnaires to all these cruise ship visitors that had been coming to Sitka over the years and asked them, what was the favorite thing about your visit to Sitka? And invariably they replied, the fishing fleet is really cool. We really like the fishing fleet. And it is interesting, Sitka's fishing fleet is Alaska's second largest, and it docks right in downtown Sitka. And you can walk around and you can interact with the local fishermen. You run into them in the local stores that are there, the bars and the restaurants, and it's a really unique experience. And so what they did is they developed a program where the fishermen, when they weren't fishing, were trained as interpretive guides. You could meet a fisherman, you go to fisherman talks, you go out on the boats with them, and they've been growing back their tourism industry since 2008 without being so dependent on the cruise ships. And what they've been finding is they have fewer visitors, but the visitors that they're getting now are spending more time and spending more money so that they can have that complete Sitka experience. So again, doing these projects and opening up to communities to share with us what's so special about our place, we can also begin to understand what our product is. And we want to plan for the long term. I don't think there's another industry in the world where we have to think about the decisions that we make today, how they're going to affect us down the line. Because when you're investing in tourism, you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your community. You're not an outside investor that can take their profits and go home at the end of a life cycle. It's not an industry that can pick up and move somewhere else. Europe has some great examples of community, people, and places that value their history and their place-based authenticity. And one of the most quintessential places is considered Toledo in Spain. Toledo has a thriving tourism industry, and they've really worked hard to do two things. Not only preserve their history and their architecture, but to preserve their communities. If you're a Toledero, you have the right to live within the city of Toledo. They have, even though the value of these properties of people living within the town are greater than the incomes of a lot of people can afford that live in Toledo, it's very difficult for someone that doesn't have an historical tie for Toledo to be able to actually live in the town. So therefore, a very attractive place to visit, very interesting place to visit, where virtually the whole city is a stakeholder in the immersive experience that you have there. And I really find this picture interesting that El Greco died in Toledo, Spain in 1614. I took this photo in 2012, and it's really a place that hasn't changed that much. It has a high standard of living, it has a very high standard of quality of living. They've been using tourism to plan for the long term to benefit their people and their places. We also believe in maximizing the visitor experience by telling the story of our places. This Mesa Verde National Park, I don't know if any of you have ever gone out and visit there, but I think it's a wonderful program where you have to go with an interpretive ranger, because if not, you'll miss that story. And they do such a good job in interpreting that story. It's really a world-class experience. So telling the story of our place is very, very important as well. And I don't think the National Park Service probably does as good a job or better job than any organization in the globe in telling your story. And that's something else we want to shine a light on in a project such as this. We want to share who we are and what makes us special and be able to put the power of the brand in our own hands. This is a photo from Brasov in Romania, and I don't know how much you know about Romania, but it's where Bram Stoker set Dracula. And you think of Romania, and a lot of people think of it as a dark and stormy night, and thunder and lightning and everything. But actually, when I went there, I was really surprised. It's more like Greece than it is the rest of Eastern Europe. It's a relatively sunny place. It has big, beautiful mountains, a lot of music, a lot of dance, and they complain about, people come here and they expect kind of this dark Dracula experience, and it's really this beautiful, warm, open, sunny place with a lot of friendly people. But they don't have the power in their brand or the power to control their brand historically. So getting our story right is really important as well. And we want to shine a light on micro, small, and medium businesses. That's really the driver that drives sustainable tourism. It's those places that are run by local people that have not only the power of the interpretation, but it can only provide that authentic experience. When we ask people to travel to places, we ask them to go to lesser appreciated, lesser known places and eat and patronize non-franchise type service providers. We're asking them to take a risk. We're asking them to risk their most scarce resource, which is really their time, not so much their money. We only have 14 days for vacation, or if you're European, you get about 35. But still, that's a relatively short period of time. And it's not so much the money, but is it going to work? And the brand advantage that Hilton hotels have, or a Hilton Garden Inn as opposed to the Garden Wall Inn, I know that if I go to the Hilton Garden Inn, what I'm going to get. My wife's going to be happy, my kids are going to be happy, got a nice little room, you got a swimming pool, breakfast in the morning. If I look at the Garden Wall Inn and I go to their website, it's a beautiful, 18th century house, but I don't know Rhonda Fitzgerald, who owns this place, that well. She's telling a good story, but, I can go to Yelp, I can go to all these different, websites that share information, but I don't know those people either. But if Rhonda Fitzgerald can tell the story of the Garden Wall Inn, and that story is co-branded with National Geographic, and it's maintained and curated by a local geotourism stewardship council that's vetted and fact-checked all of that information, and if there's resources for someone to go back to, that's a confiable resource, then we take and we start to mitigate that risk for someone to make a decision to go to a lesser known, lesser visited attraction or consume a lesser known, lesser visited goods or service provider. So we want to work in our program to identify, develop, market, and sustain our place-based authenticity so people can take journeys to explore our places. And I don't think anything says discovery more than Lewis and Clark, and nothing more analogous to a journey of discovery than Lewis and Clark. So why not build a good program around it so people can connect the dots and learn about all that you have or through your local voices, because we believe that local voices inspire global audiences to make decisions to go to these places, to travel to places that are unique and authentic, and guide them to places that are most respected and recommended by the people that live there, and strengthen the bonds between these communities by opening up dialogues between the service providers, between the communities within a destination to tell their story for the rest of the world. So we want to inspire travelers to visit the places most respected and recommended by the people who live there. That's really the value proposition for our programs and our projects, working together, like here in the Mississippi River with the Mississippi River Connections Collaboratives, reaching out to communities along the river to tell their unique story so that we can inspire people. I'm waiting for the next slide. To explore the Mississippi River through the voices of the people that live there. There's quite a delay here. I'm going to just wait a second. Because we want to learn what's so special about our places. We want to reach out to local people and give them the opportunity to be able to tell that story. So you can go to MississippiRiver.natgeotourism.com. It's our website under construction. We'll be going live with it in May of this year. And on there, you'll find all the things that you can do within this region. There'll be more coming on. These projects are really never finished. You'll find all the places to go, where to stay, the things that you can do. There's trip ideas about this project, about this region, local writers, local people sharing their stories about what's so special. The website projects really are never over. You can always add new content to them. That story can grow as it grows with you. We feature our local content contributors, people that upload information on the site. Visitors can get in touch directly with them. We encourage people to develop these dialogues between the people and places. And these projects are made possible by collaborations of organizations and entities coming together to be able to create that outreach in order to be able to create editorial content, locally generated content that begins to tell that unique story. So it's an arduous process in the sense of, I would call it the most expensive, least efficient way in which to create a website is to ask as many people as possible to input on what's so special about your place. The websites feature an interactive map that has a content model that distributes content within different subject categories that people can scroll over. They can also search information through thematics. You click on a pop-up, we go to what we call our landing pages, and these are the pages that are provided to us by local people. They're authentic, they're provided by a local person, they have rich information about the destination, the person, the place, or the business. It's geolocated in a GIS system. It connects travelers to the place. It fits in the trip planning tool, and it's co-branded with National Geographic. So all of these points of interest can be arrayed within our content model in the map. We have accommodations and action opportunities in communities, festivals, events, food and drinks, historic and prehistoric places, local points of interest, museums, theaters, interpretive centers, all those things that you can do within a region that people can explore so that they can begin to build their own itineraries to go to places. It has the contact information for the people that are on there. You can get in touch with them directly. You can like it on Facebook. You can push it out on social media. You can leave a comment on it directly. Oops. So again, we have all this information that people can use within the whole gamut of a tourism experience to build their own itineraries to these places. They have resources. They can get in touch with National Geographic. Here in Mississippi, they can get in touch with, I didn't touch that, they can get in touch with Roy Robinson or Terry Easton or Liz Inter-Smith from the project, or Frank Biasi, the webmaster, or directly to the person that put up that nomination. So you have also resources to be able to plan your travel, as well as the information, the geolocation, and all the other information. So if I take all of this together, all these things that you can do within a region, and I can save them to my trip ideas, and it'll create a trip plan for me. And so I have these saved up into where all my information is in my trip planning tool. And I can ask the system to create a customized itinerary so I can connect the dots, and I can put together my activity in the morning with where I'm going to eat lunch, my afternoon activity, where I'm going to stay that night, be able to create my own journey. It gives me the driving time and the directions. If I get closer, I can also find out how I can walk there and use it. So I can create my own customized itinerary to a place. I can save it. I can share it with the public. I can share it with other people on the site. I can also share it in social media as well. I can take my trip plan, I can break it down into different day trips and day plans. It'll also optimize it for me. I can leave comments on it. As I'm traveling, I can save it to my social media, put comments on it, share it with my Aunt Edna saying, I'm here in Lake Itasca today and here's what I'm doing, and tonight we're staying at the Village Inn. So I can use this information to tell my own unique story while I'm traveling within a place. And it's really dependent on the content that we gather from the local people in these outreach steps. And what people do is they log onto the site and they get into the content management system, and they follow 4 simple steps in which to make their nominations, which are those landing pages that we just saw. The 4 steps are text and media, in which they write very succinctly and but with enough detail to inspire people and give them enough information to go there. They can upload pictures, video files, audio files, put in their contact information, then they geolocate themselves, and then the system automatically turns it into a landing page on the site. The content contributor, that local person, Don Lloyd here, can go in, they're password enabled into the CMS, they can change their pictures, they can put up new pictures, they can update their content, they get what we call a widget that they can put on their own website that says as seen in the National Geographic website, and then they can link back to that site as well. All the content contributors are recognized. They get a certificate from National Geographic that can hang on the wall as being part of the program. They get a winter stickers they can put in the front of their office or in front of their public place. And again, all of this content has to be reviewed, edited, approved by our Geotourism Stewardship Council and National Geographic, so it's confiable information for the public. It's not a wiki, it's not a Yelp, it's not open source in that sense. It's a focused conversation of confiable information that we can share with the traveling public. And then all of our national or US-based programs have a National Geotourism Stewardship Council that get together and also look at ways in which they can cross-program, manage themselves, marketing cooperation. There's a cooperative sponsorship program within them. We represent over 18 states and 3 Canadian provinces, over 8,540 content contributors representing over 2,000 visitors within the United States in order to create these interactive websites that are really more than a website. It's a Geotourism Stewardship Council working with destinations to help to guide them to maintain their sense of place, creating an interactive website with mobile applications, outreach and marketing, and then our local network of people and places without a destination in order to create that destination awareness and inspire people to visit our place and do so with the knowledge that they can better benefit communities by how they behave when they're visiting your place. So thank you very much for your time, and I believe that there's any questions, we'll have an opportunity to be able to go over them with you.
Great. We're going to go ahead and take questions now in one of 2 ways. You can either submit your question via the question dialog box, or you can raise your hand and we will unmute you and you'll be able to ask us directly. All right. We have a question from from Jim Mallory, and the question is, the National Geographic has a wealth of text and pictures as well as maps of the Lewis and Clark story, especially the Lewis and Clark bicentennial. Can the National Geographic archives be used in the program you are so describing without cost to the National Geotourism program?
I need the microphone. Okay, yeah, Jim, this project wants to work with local people in order to develop that local content as opposed to content that was created by people from other, sources. Kind of hesitate. Anything is possible. We've never had this requested before. We'd have to, I really don't know at this time what it would be, mainly because there's copyright issues, who wrote what, when. So, with any media in general, maybe yes for some of it, but I have no idea about all of it in its entirety.
Great.
Yeah. There you go.
Great, thanks. We have a couple people with their hands up, and we'll go ahead and unmute them. All right, go ahead, Rory.
Yeah, this is Rory Robinson, National Park Service Rivers and Trails Program. And I just want to let you folks know that I have been very engaged with the Mississippi River Project, and I, would be thrilled to be a resource or even someone maybe to respond to
Rory,
questions.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm talking. Hello.
All right, it looks like we may be having some problems. Oh, they can hear Rory, I'm sorry.
You can't hear me? Are you hearing me? Hello? Hello? I don't know if I should be talking or not. Talking. It says Rory Robinson's talking. Can you hear me? I hope so. I, again, just wanted to let you all know that I've been very directly involved with the Mississippi River
I'm sorry.
Project.
We can't hear Rory, so we're unable to hear the question. For some reason, we're not able to hear it. So we apologize for that. If you wouldn't mind text or sending the message via chat, that would be great. Or the question via chat.
Should we call in? Let's call in using the phone. All right, we're going to try another way to be able to get that question from Rory. Why don't we go ahead and go to try one other person first. Vida, you have been unmuted. Vida, would you like to state your question? Okay, looks like we are having trouble on our end. Give us one moment, please.
Please enter your audio PIN followed by the pound or hash sign. If you do not have a PIN, just press pound or hash.
All right. No, let's try a question again.
Okay.
Okay, Rory. Yeah, questions coming in through the chat.
Just an easy question. Just an
Okay.
easy question.
Well, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Let's see. Do you have one?
Okay, we have a question. Hang up. We have a question from Nick Mann with Visit Southeast Montana. He says, I apologize if this was already answered, but is this program to create a geotourism site for Lewis and Clark Trail already in the works? Or are they looking for funding to make it happen?
No, we haven't answered that question. This is Mark Weekley, Superintendent, Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. Right now, we really have been in a several-month period of looking at this project, exploring it, and trying to evaluate it, and that's really what today's call is about. Part of this would be funded by Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. Part of it would hopefully over time be funded by other organizations and partners. So it's a bit of a combination of both.
Okay, here's a question from David. I missed part of the call, but is there reimbursement for original narrative historical content? Is that typically done?
I'm not even sure I really understand the question as far as reimbursement for, reimbursement would in.
I'm assuming for content that's already been developed.
Or that will be developed.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no. In general, no.
From hearing Jim's presentation earlier this morning, it's my understanding that a lot of it is community grassroots developed content. So each of the individual sites, whether it be like he expressed a bed and breakfast, or whether it be an interpretive center or a different type of site, would have to develop, probably in collaboration with their stakeholders, the content and the pictures and videos or whatever that may go on that page, is from what I'm understanding. Yes, okay, great. We have one other question. Oh, this is from Rory. I guess we should go back a little bit to what he was saying that we couldn't hear him. He said that he just wanted all to be aware that he has been very engaged with the Mississippi River Project and would be happy to assist in any way that he is able.
You want to do Lindy, or I can do?
Okay, question from Lindy. This is a great program, exclamation point. How would we pay for it?
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways to pay for it. One of the things we're looking at is a project of this scope and the scale for the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail is going to take place over a number of years, 3, 4, maybe 5 years. And so that allows us to do a couple things. Some of the funding certainly would come from Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail on an annual basis, which I can do because I wouldn't have to come up with it all at the beginning of the project, but each year we could help fund it. Another part of it would be we would try to raise funds. There are various agencies and various organizations that do work to support tourism, and we would certainly ask them. I mean, some of this would be if we got additional funding, we could do some additional things, do a little more elaborate site. If money was a little tighter, we might have to do a more basic site. I think the opportunity to do this, though, is really more dependent upon people's willingness to give their time and their energy and to give their knowledge and expertise than it is upon us looking for money from people. That's always nice, but it really, the valuable thing I think out there is the knowledge of the trail, the people's real resources is what they know about the trail and the things they have to offer, the stories they have to tell, the pictures they have to share.
Great, thanks, Mark. We have another question, and this one is from Rachel. What is the process of getting your region featured on the site, and does the region or area need to apply to National Geographic or work with, or does National Geographic work with communities to provide technical assistance for putting it on the site?
So I guess there's two questions there, right? Is how does a destination become part of this? How does a town or a region become part of it? You know, we'll develop what that project geographic scope and scale is with our stakeholders, with our stewardship council when we begin, and then we would want to be as inclusive as we could with everyone within that geographic scope and scale of the project. And it would be fundraised for, so we wouldn't be asking for people to contribute it. It would never be a pay-to-play space for the individual content contributors and that are onto the site. I think that's important as well. The second part of the question was, I lost it. You can repeat it for me.
National Geographic.
Yes. Yeah, and that's, and Roy Robertson is on the line here, and he will certainly attest to, yes, that's a big part of what we do. We'll do community outreach, go into the community, show people how they can make their nominations, how they can log into the content management system, register on the site, get password enabled, walk them through the steps to do so. If they're doing it remotely, they'll always be assigned, each nominator is assigned to an editor, someone that can work with them directly. So there's ongoing technical support for the content contributors to be able to manage their content, to be able to put up their content for the first time, or any questions that they might have. And yeah, so that's a major part of the program, is reaching out to communities and giving them the ability to be able to interact with us in the project.
Great. We have a question from Nick. If this project moves forward, would there also be a print brochure aspect to the project, sort of like the Greater Yellowstone and Crown of the Continent, those type of other collateral?
Yeah, there certainly could be just a matter of fundraising, so that would be something that would certainly be on the table. It all starts with the website, because that's how we would gather that data to make the map. So we would do that in steps. So just like in Crown of the Continent or Yellowstone, we make the website, and then the map is derived from the website.
Great, thanks. We also have another question from Andrea. She also thinks this is a great idea. One of the concepts she's trying to figure out is how to identify or involve the small local entities and businesses that should be part of the final project.
So part of the implementation of the project is we do active community outreach. So for example, we would go to a town, let's say Great Falls in Montana, get in touch with, through your networks and people that people know in the, whatever context you would have there, let's say the visitor center, to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce, so maybe the Hotels Association, Guides Association, all those people that are what we would call tourism stakeholders, and invite them to come to a 1.5 hour, 2 hour workshop, show them what the project is, how they can become part of it, give them some postcards or handouts or posters that they can take out into the community if they know of other, let's say guides or outfitters or bed and breakfasts or small businesses that aren't at this meeting that, should be contributing content to the website. So it's kind of active communication, active participation, and in-person community outreach to these places so that we can engage people through the networks that exist within the region.
Okay, we're getting lots of good questions. Marks asks, perhaps you already considered this in your planning, but be sure to consider the effort needed to keep content up to date in addition to the curation of new content.
And that's a great question or comment, if you will. That's why it's important for us before we start a project that we've set the table, if you will, for the long term. And as mentioned in the presentation, that Geotourism Stewardship Council, and if you could see me, I just kind of put that in between quotes, that local stakeholder organization that will own the website or own the project is very important for us. It doesn't have to be identified at the beginning. For example, certainly the National Park Service could own and maintain the website, but they would have to also maintain that community of people and the content contributors, that constant communication with them. Again, the content contributors can always go in and update their information, but we have to kind of give them a platform in order to do that. Technically, one thing that happens if you have a content contributor that has a nomination that's active on the website, we get an aging report. So let's say no one has gone in to that website and updated it or looked at it from the content contributor side. They haven't logged in in, let's say 6 months or so. We'll get in touch with that person and say, hey, is your business still open? Are you still there? Has anything changed? Do you want to update those photos? So that's part of the active management of it. So part of the project will deliver what we call a comprehensive strategic plan that will come up with the level of effort needed in order to be able to, maintain and manage the website over time. But that's part of that long-term thinking. And I've been joking with Mark, is like, if we do this project, we kind of get married. It's a long-term commitment. Well, maybe it's not a marriage, but it should be a long-term commitment over time, and which we'll be working together.
Okay, great, thanks. Got some more questions coming in. One was a follow-up that Rachel had. So she just wanted to make sure, so she says, do we wait to be approached, or is there a proposal in process for National Geographic on the radar as a destination for Lewis and Clark?
So in the process where we are now, Mark and I have been talking about this for a while, and Mark's been working with us in the Mississippi project as well. We developed a proposal that we submitted to the National Park Service, to Mark's office here at Lewis and Clark. And we've been looking at ways in which to fund and make the project happen. It's not happening now. We hope to be able to get something going by 2016, but there's still things that need to be done. Mark, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. It really has been probably about a 6-month process that we've really been looking at this hard. This is a big undertaking, so I really want to make sure people kind of understand it. I want to make sure that the staff at Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail, as well as all the staff and partners out along the trail and interested parties, have a chance to kind of understand what this is and make sure that if we jump into this, we're able to do it and do it well, think through it, and do it in a sustainable long-term way. So it's been an exploratory process. We are, I hope to move towards a decision this spring. And I would certainly appreciate, direct feedback from anybody that has questions, that has concerns, even after this call. If you want to contact me here at the office, I'd be happy to, respond to email or talk to you. It is a big undertaking, but it's one I'm very, very excited about. And I just have seen so many positive things where these have happened that I think the potential opportunity for increasing awareness, increasing high quality sustainable visitation along the trail, and to help us in our mission to actually protect the trail and care for the resources on the trail can come out of this as well. So right now my feeling is very positive, but I certainly am still soliciting feedback and input.
All right, we have a question from Vida Stabler. She is an Omaha tribal member. She has two questions. One is, have we worked with anyone from the Omaha tribe in Northeast Nebraska on geotourism? And if so, would the technical advisor, whoever that person may be, will they make a visit to see if a geotourism project is feasible in a small native community such as ours? P.S. We have beautiful sites along the Missouri River. We agree with that.
So, Vita, if I have the question correctly, they would be interested at having their own geotourism project.
Probably, I don't know.
Oh,
she said, let me
okay, yep.
Go ahead.
I am a teacher at our local K through 12 reservation school. I am also crazy in love with kayaking and would like to brainstorm ways to bring our children into a plan of geotourism. So probably both, probably integrated with the Lewis and Clark one, I would assume.
Yes, yeah. That's an interesting question. First of all, we haven't worked in Northeast Nebraska, in Northeast Montana, or Northeast Nebraska, sorry. But that's an intriguing proposition. If there was a motivated community, we talked about working with Sitka, Alaska, and we did some work with them. It wasn't a website project, but we did some interpretive planning and some brochures for visitors that were there. It doesn't have to be a full-blown geotourism website that we could work with a destination or even a community people. If you want, we also have an education division, which we do some work with as well. Maybe I can get your email and we can exchange emails about what some opportunities might be.
Go ahead.
I just want to add that one thing that's been very, very much in our mind as we're exploring and looking at this and considering this is the American Indians along the Lewis and Clark Trail are so important and so much a part of the history and so much a part of the story. And, high quality, good sustainable tourism could have tremendous benefits for everybody along the trail. And we certainly would want to work and include and make this a very inclusive partnership. And I think there are some real opportunities here. And I think that'd be very consistent with the way we've managed and worked in the past on the trail.
Great, thanks. We got more questions coming in. This is good. We have one from Andrea, and she was wanting to know, are there any legal or technical issues of federal agencies like National Park Service or U.S. Forest Service maintaining a website that is not a .gov? So it isn't.
Well, one of the things we're really looking at doing and they have to determine is how would we maintain and who would own the site and how this would be managed down the road. My vision is that this would not be owned by the National Park Service. We'd certainly be a very important partner, but I really want to see this as some type of a collaborative that comes together that the Park Service is a part of, but it's actually owned, maintained, and operated by kind of a separate entity. Haven't worked out all the details. As far as can we own a not.gov website, we have had websites that we support and are actually hosted by somebody else. They're not hosted by the National Park Service, but we've helped create them and we help fund to maintain them. So yes, that can be done. They wouldn't exactly be our website, but they're one that we kind of take care of and basically hire somebody to put out there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, though, the maintenance of the website itself would not fall solely on the National Park Service. It's a team of people working together. So
the whole concept would be to build that. The concept would be to develop that stakeholder organization,
right.
And the spearhead for that would be the National Park Service. That's where we're starting this. But during the course of the project and in preparation for the project, we want to bring together those stakeholders in a meaningful way and get buy-in from those critical stakeholders to a long-term commitment to the project. And then we'll look at what roles and responsibilities that different entities or individuals would have to play.
okay, great, thanks. Well, do you see any more questions coming in?
No, there's some private ones.
We might have you're wrapping up here.
Well, it sounds like there is a lot of interest and a lot of questions, and this is certainly, and I think Mark will say this too, it is not the end of the conversation. It's just definitely a beginning to let you stakeholders know about this and the potential of it. And though he definitely encourages you to contact him. His contact information or the Trail's contact information was in that initial email invitation that we sent out. I'll give it to you right now. It's our general main email is lecl_communications@nps.gov. And if you email us there, we can get you Mark's direct phone line and email and forward you to the correct and appropriate person to do that. But definitely thanks for all the questions. And we will continue the conversation, answer questions as we can, send out more information and follow up. Thank you very much to Jim. And I think, did you have something to say before we go up, you Mark? Okay.
First of all, I really want to thank all of you for taking time to participate. I really appreciate your questions. I want to say a special thank you to Carla and Neil and to Jim for helping make this possible here today. And I really would appreciate feedback and input, and I really want you to understand that this is a project I'm excited about, but I don't see this as a project that's about the National Park Service. This is about the Lewis and Clark Trail and the people that live and work along the trail. And I think with that spirit, we can really do something wonderful and amazing. Thank you so much. Have a great day.